What's going on, Mortgage Pros? This is Eric Braun, your host of the Mortgage Pro Podcast, the podcast for mortgage pros by mortgage pros to make better mortgage pros. And today we have a special guest, as always, Mr. Jimmy Joseph. We touch on the importance of coaching, the importance of communication, how he went from corporate America to now our side of the business, and how that background has helped propel him. We talk about how he goes out there and how he gets business, all the important stuff that you need to know as a mortgage pro. So thank you for watching. As always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hope you enjoy the episode. What's up, Jimmy Joseph? How are you?
What's going on, Eric? How are you, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm excited for this conversation because I've been following you a little bit on social media. I've seen, the growth. You're blowing up. For everybody that's just tuning in that isn't familiar with you, why don't you just give us a quick background of maybe how long you've been in the business, how you got in the business, where you're from originally, just so we can kind of familiarize ourselves with you today.
Yeah, that's what's up. Cool. So I'm from Brooklyn. I grew up in Flatbush, Midwood section, 2 and 5 train. Did my thing, went to Brooklyn College, went to Midwood High School, so I didn't go too far from one another. Started a family, I'm raising daughters with a beautiful wife, moved out here to New Jersey, lived in West Orange for a couple of years, then now I'm in Murray Hill, New Jersey, enjoying it. Pretty much I have an MBA and a finance degree from Brooklyn College. I worked at JP Morgan, worked at Prudential. As I was getting older, I wanted to know what was my why. And as I was climbing up through the corporate ladders, I felt like I wasn't getting what I wanted, right, in life. So, hanging out with some friends, they were like, hey, let's do this, let's do that. And I showed them the pockets to assets. And they were like, no, we can't get it. I was like, because of risk and all that good stuff that comes along with it at the time, during my time, everybody like, credit, you don't got credit? What's going on with credit? So long story short, I took it on my hand and I just fixed their credit, doing it the old fashioned way. Now things are different now, right? You could just go on and order it, but I did it the old fashioned way, mailed it, watched it removed. And as I was making money, well, I wasn't making money, but I was doing what I was doing with financials. However, I met this broker and he was like, man, you did this for your friends? I'm like, yeah, I gave him about $8 million in deals. He was like, you're a natural. I'm like, yeah. So I took on it for a couple of years. I was working at Prudential and doing mortgage. So I was in and out of it. The last 3 years, that's when I decided to go hard. I gave up corporate America and I said, I'm going to go all in because numbers I know now to communicate well to others who don't know what to do when they're going through that journey. And I'm here now, and I met you, and next thing you know, we're going at it, us boys, man. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. So I'm thankful to meet you too, Eric. You got to give yourself kudos, man, because your portfolio is deep.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
so
man.
you, by the way, Brooklyn, I'm not from Brooklyn, but I pretend like I'm from Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn now.
Okay.
I grew up in Long Island, but I live in Williamsburg. I love it out here. So Brooklyn, stand up for everybody who's who's listening and tuning in. But so you moved to New Jersey, and
Right.
I have a lot of clients that are doing the same thing. And now I'll get back to like your background and stuff like that, because I think it's important to touch on. But I have a lot of clients that are moving from New York to New Jersey. Do you find a lot of your clients are from New York moving to New Jersey, and maybe why are they doing so?
Yeah, man, because of the proximity, right? Coming from Brooklyn, especially where I'm from, right? You're taking the 2 and train from the Flatbush stop going into Manhattan. That's every bit of 35, 40 minutes. Some parts of New Jersey going into Manhattan, that's how long it takes. Like for me,
Right.
we come out of Summit, New Jersey, and we're in New York in 30, 35 minutes,
Right.
door to door. So there's proximity and then there's cost, right? One of the big things that we see here, your money goes a little further in New Jersey. And so some are saying, look, the commute isn't bad. I can afford more. I'm getting a little bit more from my schools, depending on which towns you move into, right?
Mhm.
and they're maximizing their return. So some are seeing the value now.
Right. And I think that's super common. Not gonna lie, I've definitely thought about it. Now, so you moved to New Jersey about 3 years ago. Was that also when you shifted from your corporate background to now what we do?
No, I moved to New Jersey about, excuse me, it's been almost 20 years now. Yeah,
Oh
man.
wow, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so it's
yeah.
been a minute.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
When I worked at JP Morgan, my best friend lived in Montclair. And he's still my big brother best friend. I saw Montclair, I was like, wow, there's trees, New York City's right there.
Right.
Blah blah blah. I go over there, I fall in love. At the time, I couldn't afford Montclair, so I moved to the neighboring town, which was West Orange, New Jersey. As I grew my family, that's when I moved. I moved to Union County, Murray Hill, New Jersey. So I'm out here
Gotcha.
now. Mhm.
Gotcha. So do you find that you're still doing a good amount of business in New York, or is it mostly Jersey now that I mean, you've set roots down 15 years ago. So
Right, right. So I'm getting more New York State. So I'm getting the suburbs of New York, right? I
gotcha.
mean, when I say, upstate, I'm
Yeah, yeah,
touching
yeah.
those now. And more people are doing, as you know, the DSCR loans, right, coming
Mhm.
out, and I'm touching that. I've not, I've done two in the boroughs, but this next year, the end of this year, going into next year, the goal is for me to prominently start doing business in the boroughs.
Yeah, I think it's a good area to go after. I know everybody when a lot of out of state loan officers, they're seeing me on Instagram and stuff, in New York City, and they're like, "Oh, you must do like a lot of luxury and condos," and I'm like, "No, there's a
No.
whole there. Me personally, I may live in Brooklyn, but I do most of my business in Long Island because that's where the suburbs are. Now, the boroughs here are, lots of high loan amounts. It's different pockets of business for sure.
Absolutely.
Different
I'd agree.
different real estate agents, different way of operating. So it really comes down to, I know my business is focused on referral partners, realtors, specifically. So if most of my referral partners are doing business in Long Island, I'm also doing most of my business in Long Island. So I feel like I just wanted to kind of clear the air for people who for people who are confused about that. But so now let's go back to your background for a second. So you were in corporate America. You made a transition to where you're at now, or was there a stop in between?
No, at corporate America, I jumped right into the mortgage industry.
And you kind of naturally took on this financial advisor almost mindset of helping clients with their credit and giving sound advice and all of that stuff, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Once, you what I've realized, because when you're in corporate America, you're always over analyzing things, right? Because there's
Mhm.
a corporate structure that you need to have because you're dealing with portfolio managers. You need to come across a certain way and to explain why you're giving them the value to do what they do best when it comes to investing. Now, I had to have that call, like when I'm dealing with the public, I can't speak that way, right?
Mhm.
And I've been trained for almost 2 decades to speak one way. And when I realized that speaking to the regular clientele like you and I had to understand how to communicate that way. So that transition from the corporate language to, now I wouldn't say dumbing it down, but more or less of communicating like
Layman.
normal people talk. Yeah, lane terms, right?
Yeah.
Don't overcomplicate it. So that was um that was the breakthrough for me at the time when I went from corporate America into mortgage related stuff because we knew the numbers. It wasn't that. It was more
Right.
how do you communicate to someone who's making a major investment?
Which I think is so huge. I think one of the most undervalued, not really talked about skills in our industry is communicating effectively, or
Correct.
how to communicate effectively. Because I think if you have that, it helps you in every single area of your business, whether it's communicating with a consumer or communicating with a referral partner or creating content. Like, you need to be able to communicate effectively and have people understand. I think sometimes the difference between a borrower working with us versus somebody else is not because that somebody else or we're offering something special, or it's how we explain something that makes them feel that much more comfortable. How we explain the pre-approval process, how we explain why we need to go FHA or why we need to go conventional, or how we explain guidelines. I think a lot of the time that in itself, if you do that properly, sets yourself apart. And even when it comes to creating content, which I wanted to talk to you about as well, like people are watching content and they're saying, I understand what this guy is saying. I like how he explained that, right? It might not even be a new piece of information. They may already know it, but a realtor may be watching your video and is like, I like how he broke that down. And next thing you know, that the realtor's like, maybe I should work with that person. So the working on your communication skills is something that I caught early on. I actually hired, I did like this 3-day speaking event thing with Renee Rodriguez, who we'll have on the podcast soon. This was before
That's my guy.
so
Renee
that's
is my guy.
before he even blew up. This was like 2018, 2019, like before COVID. I did one of his Amplify events, and I'm just, only reason I bring that up is I'm explaining the importance of working and honing on that skill. If you work on that skill and have that skill, it affects everything in your business in a positive way. So that's something that I see through your content. That's also something that I'm getting as we're talking today. And it's something that you've explained, like you needed to make a transition for, coming from one line of one side of the business to now what we do. So kudos to you on that. But let's talk about today. So today, you're with Guaranteed Rate, right?
Guaranteed Rate, correct.
And how long have you been with them?
This October will be 2 years.
Awesome. And most of your business is coming from where?
Right now, direct to consumer, believe it or not. I'm actually,
okay.
consumers are hitting me up and like, hey, I want to buy this house. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, do you have a realtor? And I'm giving realtors the baton. I'm actually giving realtor leads.
Right. which is always great. How are you going about getting those consumers? Is it through social media? Are you buying leads? Is it sphere of influence?
I don't buy leads. I think they're a waste of money. I was influence, networking events, honing in on the community. I think that's very important. A good example, school starts next week. If you have a relationship with your friends and family and those in the community, you should congratulate your kids starting school, right? Let them know who you are without selling anything, you know, and then I'm also doing it through social media, right? Through my social channels, such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Awesome. I think if you look at some of the biggest producers in our industry,
right,
90% of them are they get their business from referral partners. But I think taking some of the power back is like every loan officer's dream, where we don't have to chase referral partners. We don't have to beg for business. And there's obviously different ways to go about this. I'm making it sound worse than it actually is, working with referral partners. But a lot of us do dream about I wish clients could just call me. And then, you know, I'm the guy and whatever. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And I think some loan officers set up their business to focus on that. So is that what you are working on now? Or are you shifting maybe into more referral partners? Like, what do you have on your agenda as far as growing your business?
To be honest with you, Eric, I'm doing a mix of both, right? Because you got to have different funnels.
Right.
You don't know until you look at your year-to-date numbers to see where did you get that business from, and then you add a little bit more to it for the following year, right?
Right.
So I'm mixer of both, right? I'm talking to realtors, financial planners, right? Estate planners, because this is the time. If you're sitting with all this equity, what else can you be doing? Because remember, if you lose your job, you can't refinance.
Right.
So you're better off putting this money into certain portfolios. T plus three, something happens, you could sell those securities and live off of that until you get a job, right? So it's talking to your clients about what that looks like and referring that to a financial advisor. When it comes to a realtor, you're telling them what's going on, what's happening. If you have a client, this bucket may fit for your client based off the product that we have to offer at that time. Right.
Right.
So those are the type of conversations that I'm having. And then going back to the community, local events, when things are happening in Brooklyn as well, I still go back home,
Right.
I'll go ahead and sponsor, put my name out there. And where I live right now, I'll put my name out there. So it's a mixture of every little thing. And then at the end of the year, I'll see where did my business come from, and I'll add a little bit more to it for the
Right.
following year.
Right. So you do that audit at the end of the year saying,
Yes.
what performed the best, what's working, what's not working. I like that. That's something that I've preached for a very long time. At around December, I start to kind of look back at the year, start to ask myself, especially if you track these things and you have a CRM or you're organized in whatever way that you have, it makes that exercise a little bit easier. But that's super, super valuable to do at the end of every year, is just kind of figure out what is working. And a lot of time before I go in, add another bucket, I actually double down on the things that are working. Right. So before I chase the new shiny object, of whatever it is at the time, building a consumer direct division, right?
Right.
Let's hire, telemarketers, and let's buy leads, and let's build out a system where we're bringing in business consumer direct. That's a shiny object for me right now. Like that, I've always wanted to do that. But if I really audit my business and I say, these are the three sources that work the best, have I got everything out of them? And the answer is no, then I need to squeeze those berries more, to try and get all the juice out. So that's just something that I've been doing, I would say, like 4 or 5 years. But how are you going about, because this is like a big question that a lot of mortgage professionals or loan officers ask themselves. How are you going about building relationships with, let's focus on realtors. I think I know the answer, but why don't you share what you're working on right now?
Just get to know them. You can't ask for something if you haven't proven yourself.
Right.
I'm from the bottom, so to me, it's like anybody calling me, "Hey, I need a loan." Okay, why do you need the loan? And that's the same thing with the realtor. Well, why do you want to work with me? What can I offer? What do we have? What can we do together to help others grow, right? I'm always about enrichment. So I have to get to know you, you have to get to know me, so we foster those relationships when it comes to our clients. So to me, I don't ask realtors for business. I never have, and I don't plan on doing it right now. I plan on just working with you as it relates to whatever you got going on in your life at that time. And if I
Mhm.
can be supportive, I'll be supportive. It has to come in organically, right? We can't,
Right.
hey, I'm calling. Let's get a cup of coffee. I don't want coffee with you. I want to know, like what's going on, what's happening, where can I add value? You know what I mean? It just
Right.
has to be genuine. And let's face it, it's not as busy right now. So you calling a realtor, telling them, look, I got this product. Who cares? You can't offer someone a product that can't buy a house. You
Right.
know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's you just have to trust the process, build that communication,
Mhm.
fill in the gaps where they're missing that. And
Mhm.
then if they're doing what they're doing, they will think of you, and then you'll be that partner, right? Period.
Two things came to mind when you said that. Number one, I always preach, like, whoever has the most friends wins. And like creating and fostering relationships and building friendships is a skill. I don't think it had, but when you describe it as a skill, it may come off like you're fake, which it's the complete opposite. Like, you have to be authentic, you have to be genuine. And I think I think going out there and putting yourself out there if you're an authentic person, it kind of just follows suit. Which I really enjoy about this business. Because if you kind of change your frame of, I need to go out there and get referral partners, like we call them referral partners, even as we were talking about. If you change your frame and say, I have to go out there and make friends, it's very different attitude, mentality. Your actions are different. You talk differently when you change that frame. And I think this business is so much more enjoyable when you go about it that way. So I love that you said that. It has to be organic, because going down and chasing, like everybody describes it, begging for business and chasing people for coffee is not fun. None of us want to do it. But if you change your frame a little bit to building friendships, then I think it's a little bit more palatable. The second thing that you mentioned is like filling in the gaps wherever they're at. And that's something that I always talk about with potential referral partners, is like, I want to be the battery in your back. I want to accent whatever you got going on. So you're working on an event. How can I help with that? You want to do more social media? How can I help with that? You want to canvas an area, start to farm? How can I help with that? And a good book that I recommend to everybody is The Go-Giver. Have you ever read it?
I've heard of it. I've never read it.
You're living it without knowing it, so you probably don't need to read it. However, it's really, really good, and it's set up in a way where it's like a story. I like books like that, where it's like you're reading a story, but you're learning lessons through it. But yeah, I highly recommend anybody who's listening to this, if you want to go out there and build a referral business or referral-based business, go read The Go-Giver.
I'm reading right now, as you're talking about books, I'm reading, what's his name? Adam Grant, Give and Take.
Give and Take.
That's another good, Give and Take by Adam Grant. That's another good book.
List.
Yeah, that's another good book right now I'm getting into. It's one of those things I'm like, wow, I'm blown away. Yeah, definitely pick it up. It's a New York Times bestseller too. Definitely good, man.
Give and Take.
Give and Take, yeah.
Here. Adam Grant. So I got my gem for the day. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
So
absolutely.
So you're going out there, you're building these organic relationships, you're making friends, you're putting yourself out into the community. I'm always curious, and I think one of the biggest values that we can get or receive in this business is like understanding and laying out our process. So why don't you run us through, because I'm always curious to see how other loan officers work. Like, I only know what I know, right? I only know our organization. I only know the changes that we've made, the improvements that we made, the staff that we have, the different roles that we have. Why don't you, a few sentences, bring us through your process as from start to finish when you work with a customer?
First thing is first, I get to know who they are. I ask them a couple of questions, make them feel comfortable, right? And I bring it in a report process, right? Because I did a lot of reporting when I was in corporate America, right? So I tell them what they feel like putting down as a down payment, right? Because you don't want to talk to them as if like they don't have the money, but you don't want to, you also want to manage your time, right? So you're having conversations, you're filling in the blanks, taking in the application, you're asking them certain questions to help make them feel comfortable as they continue to process with you. Once they do that, then I ask that you give me certain documents to verify what you put on the application, right? So I feel comfortable knowing that we're going to start the journey. Once that happens, then we go over options. I always like to give my clients options, because I think if they have that, instead of calling you every 2-3 days when another they're going over ask, they're trying to understand what the value is. I'm like, this was given to you in a report, so you should know the answer, but I'm going to answer the phone. But again, I make it as easy as I can so they know what they're doing with the options that they have. And once that's done, I just follow through and let them know I do updates. There's no tricks. Wednesdays, I do my updates with my pre-approvals. We have a system, right? Once I give them pre-approval, Wednesdays, I make my call them up. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? What do you feel about the market? Get a temperature of what's happening. So just in case the deal is submitted, you're ready to go and submit the offer, right? Submit the loan into processing. And once that happens, I have a good middle office team that takes the process, moves on, and that's about it. And we submit. I don't overcomplicate the process because it's supposed to be seamless as it can.
Right. I think a simple process is a good process.
Yeah, if you overthink it because some get flustered, right? You and I both know we're psychologists in some of these folks' minds, right? And you just have to make it as easy as it can because we're going to ask for a lot of documents depending on what you do for a living. Right. And that can be intimidating because sometimes especially if you're an hourly person, I got to go find that last pay stub because we need to count it to help run through your your overtime so we can make sure we're qualifying accordingly, right? Get you max amount of your money so you can get this house, right? So it can get overwhelming, and I understand that. So that compassion comes in. So you just try to ease the process. And once that's done, I promise you, if you set it up in the beginning like that, they won't call you every 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days because you just can't. I realize in this business, and this is through coaching, you can't put that much time into it because you're supposed to prospect at the same time. If you can't prospect and you're falling in love with every file you go into, you're not creating a business. Not to say you shouldn't care, but you have to manage your time, right? And so I always feel like if you set them up in the beginning, everything else is seamless.
Right. And you spoke about like compassion and understanding the plight of a borrower. Like a lot of us, and that's why one of our core principles is empathy.
Yes.
So everyone has empathy for everyone. That's one of our core principles. So meaning loan officers have empathy for processors. Processors have empathy for loan officers. It's not like, their job is so easy, or if only they did this and then my life would be, because that's a very common battle in our industry. But it's also everybody on our team needs to have empathy for the borrower, right? So why can't they just get the freaking bank statement? Or why can't they just give me documents that are clear and not cut off? You need to understand and have empathy for that person. This is not what they do. This is not what they do for a living. A lot of times it's their first time going through this process. We need to understand that. And I think if you have empathy for the borrower, it allows you to be a little bit more patient, a little bit more compassionate, like you said, which is so important because people feel that. It's very easy to get frustrated in this business. Very easy.
Yeah, it is.
I got a text as we're talking right now, and I felt my temperature rise because I'm like, I already talked to you about this, but empathy. So it's great that you mentioned that. Now you also mentioned coaching. Right. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Coaching has changed my life.
There you go. All right. I'll cut the video right there.
Yeah, coaching
That's all you
changed my
needed
life.
to say. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh man, listen, my wife used to be like, yo, dude, you don't need an accountability partner. Just check your checking account. You ain't doing well. I'm like, yeah. I was like, what are you doing to me? So
the checking will have you in check. Yeah.
Right. But you realize, especially for me, I can only speak for me. When I was in corporate America, everything was black and white. You knew you was going to get paid every 2 weeks, regardless of what you were doing. Obviously, you were maximizing your potential, right? But in sales, you kill what you make. Like, you have to understand how that process works. I did not. And coaching helped me manage my time. What do I do on Mondays? What do I do on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and in the weekend, right? It helped me understand, with the help of Renee Rodriguez, absolutely, how you speak, how you manage your time, and how you deliver on your deliverables. Because in the end, this is all you have. And if you don't have order, there's confusion. Confusion does not give you your data. Data does not give you return. And you're not doing what you should be doing. And therefore, you will fail in this business.
Right.
So having coaching, growth only coaching, I'll big them up. Growth only coaching, Amir Saeed and Justin Luptup, they've helped me understand how to do things. With the addition of Alex, he's he's Eastern European. He's very cutthroat. He's like, what are you doing? Like, so he got militant with me at times. And like I said, man, I paid a lot of money for it, but that has been the best investment in my life. I'm not scared to say it. It's one of the best investments I've done.
I think one of the things, I don't know if you follow Alex or Mosey, or you've probably seen his stuff, even if you
Yeah,
don't
I've seen his
follow
stuff.
him.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Alex always talks about how, investing, the topic of investing. I got people ask me or leave a comment on a video. I got $5,000. What should I do with it? It's like, before you go put it in the S&P, put it in the S&Me. Like, invest
Yes,
in
I like
yourself,
that. Right,
invest
right.
in your skills. I think I've spent well over six figures
I can
on
believe that.
well over six figures on making me better. I should sit down and quantify it so I have the exact number, but I can confidently say it's well over six figures between flights and hotels and conferences and tickets and coaching and one-on-one and group and different skills that I've had to pay for, different, like, it's so powerful, and the return on investment is always going to be better than anything else. Like, my crypto's cut in half, my money in my mutual funds is maybe whatever, my 401k is, I know the money that I put into skills, exponential return. So you hit the nail right on the head, man. I think that's so powerful. So I
can be honest
appreciate.
with you too. I can be honest with you, Eric, on this one. I had to liquidate some of my retirement account just to get coaching, right? Businesses
Wow.
change. I'm being
Wow.
honest with you. That was, am I in on bullshitting?
Right.
That was a question I had to ask because I knew what I was
Right.
doing. And
Right.
when I realized if I hit withdrawal, I'm signing up to do what I love to do, which is
Right.
consult with my clients through their portfolio.
That's awesome.
Coaching made me do it, man.
That's awesome. I love that. I appreciate your time. Everybody that's listening to this that wants to connect with you, where should they go?
Yeah, Jimmy Mortgage. I'm on IG, Jimmy Mortgage, Facebook, Jimmy Mortgage on YouTube, and on LinkedIn, the professional Jimmy Joseph MBA.
Awesome. I appreciate your time, brother. It was a really cool conversation. I think everybody got a lot out of it today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man. I apologize for a little fumble. The phone was coming in and someone was calling me,
That's
and it just my train of thought. It happens,
we
man.
didn't even notice. We didn't even notice. So
Wow,
I'll
wow,
talk to
wow.
you soon, man.
All right, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Later. Boom.